In a mansion where power spoke louder than words, he thought he knew every secret in his empire, until a shy maid started speaking to his father, in a language that revealed everything, and one woman's silence became the loudest truth of all. Robert Roth had killed innocent men before, but he didn't know it until the day a maid named Naomi Frost looked him in the eyes and said, "You murdered my father." She'd infiltrated his mansion, befriended his deaf father, and uncovered evidence that the execution he'd carried out 3 years ago was based on lies, lies told by the man still standing in his inner circle. Now, with a traitor hunting them both and her father's ghost between them, Naomi had to decide: seek revenge or trust the man who destroyed her family to help her survive the week. As we continue, hit subscribe. Like this video and tell me in the comment where you are watching from. Your support helps us bring more thrilling stories. And trust me, you won't want to miss them. Now, let's go into the story. The crystal chandeliers cast pools of golden light across the Roth mansion's private dining hall, each shadow a reminder of secrets that thrived in darkness. Afternoon sun filtered through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating imported Italian marble and furniture that cost more than most people's homes. The air itself felt expensive, thick with the scent of fresh lilies and the kind of quiet that only old money could buy. Naomi Frost adjusted the white apron of her maid's uniform for the 3rd time that afternoon, her fingers trembling slightly, not from nervousness about serving one of Manhattan's most dangerous families, but from the familiar weight of staying invisible in a world that had already taken everything from her. At 23, Naomi had perfected the art of disappearing. She moved through the grand estate like a whisper in mourning dress, present but unseen, a ghost with a rehearsed smile and downcast eyes. She'd been working at the Roth mansion for 8 months now, grateful for a position that asked no questions about her past, and paid well enough to send money to her younger sister still living upstate under an assumed name. "The wine needs to be decanted before Mr. Roth arrives," called Mrs. Halloway, the head housekeeper, her voice clipped with the special tension reserved for days when the family patriarch would be present. "And for heaven's sake, stay against the walls. Mr. Kevin is joining them today, and no one knows how to handle him." Naomi nodded silently, gathering the bottle of Italian Barolo that probably cost more than she earned in 3 months. Mr. Kevin Gobert, Robert Roth's father, the man they called the Gentle King, before violence had stolen his hearing and his throne. The dining room hummed with controlled chaos. Staff members moved with practiced efficiency, but their eyes betrayed anxiety. Robert Roth commanded fear even in his absence, but his father's presence brought a different kind of tension. The awkwardness of powerful people confronted with something they couldn't control, the inability to communicate. Naomi understood that world intimately. It was a world of isolation, of being surrounded by voices you couldn't hear, of gestures that went unnoticed. It was the world her father had tried to bridge before the night the men in dark suits came. "Excuse me." The voice cut through the quiet preparations like a knife through silk, sharp, commanding, brooking no argument. Naomi turned to find Robert Roth standing in the doorway, and her breath caught despite her determination to remain unmoved. He was tall, imposing in a way that had nothing to do with height and everything to do with presence. His burgundy suit was tailored to perfection, dark vest beneath revealing the edge of tattoos that crept up his neck, marks of a past that expensive tailoring couldn't quite conceal. His dark beard was immaculately groomed, his expression carved from stone and suspicion. Even standing still, he radiated the kind of danger that made smart people step back. "Mr. Roth," Naomi said softly, lowering her gaze in practiced deference, "the table is nearly ready." My father needs assistance." His tone was flat, but edged with something that might have been frustration, or barely contained anger. "The staff seems incapable of understanding basic gestures." Naomi's gaze shifted past him to the ornate chair by the window. An elderly man sat bathed in afternoon light that seemed too gentle for someone with his reputation. Kevin Gober was probably in his early 70s, dressed in a soft blue button-down shirt and gray slacks, casual elegance that spoke of retirement from the violent world he'd once ruled. His salt-and-pepper hair was neatly combed, his face still handsome despite age, but it was his eyes that arrested her attention, sharp, intelligent, and currently dulled by the isolation of being surrounded by people who couldn't understand him. Two junior staff members hovered nearby, their faces flushed with embarrassment as Mr. Kevin made gestures they clearly didn't comprehend. He was asking for something, his hands moving with increasing frustration, but they could only stammer apologies and look pleadingly toward Robert. I'm so sorry, sir," one of them said to Robert, voice shaking. "We don't know what he needs." "Then find someone who does," Robert snapped, his patience visibly fraying. Naomi watched the scene unfold, and something in her chest twisted painfully. She'd seen that expression before, the loneliness of being trapped in silence while the world moved around you, speaking in languages your isolation couldn't reach. Her father had worn that same look in those final months before everything went dark. Without thinking, without calculating the risk, Naomi set down the wine bottle and stepped forward. "Excuse me, sir," she heard herself say, her voice barely above a whisper. "May I?" Every head in the dining room turned toward her. Mrs. Halloway's eyes widened in warning. The junior staff members looked relieved and terrified in equal measure. And Robert Roth stared at her with an expression that made her want to retreat back into invisibility. But she wasn't looking at him anymore. She was looking at Mr. Kevin, whose sharp eyes had locked onto hers with something that looked like desperate hope. Naomi's hands rose slowly, her fingers forming shapes she'd known since childhood, movements as natural as breathing and as painful as memory. "Good afternoon, sir," she signed, her hands moving with practiced grace. "What would you like?" For one frozen heartbeat, nothing happened. The dining room seemed to hold its breath. Then Kevin Gober's face transformed. His eyes widened, genuine shock flickering across features that had probably forgotten how to be surprised. His mouth opened slightly, and then, slowly, like a man remembering a language he thought he'd lost, his hands began to move. "You sign?" His movements were hesitant, rusty from disuse, disbelief written across every gesture. "You actually sign?" "Yes, sir," Naomi signed back, genuine warmth flooding through her for the first time in months. "How may I help you?" Kevin's hands moved faster now, more confident, almost eager. "I wanted water, just water, but no one understands. They keep bringing me wine, tea, everything except—" He paused, and something vulnerable crossed his face. "It's been so long since someone actually listened." Naomi's throat tightened with unexpected emotion. "I'm listening now, sir. Still or sparkling? Ice or no ice?" "Still. No ice." And Kevin's eyes brightened with what might have been tears or might have been joy. "Thank you. God, thank you." Behind Naomi, the dining room had gone completely silent. She was vaguely aware that every staff member, that Mrs. Halloway, that Robert Roth himself, was staring at her with expressions ranging from shock to suspicion to something she couldn't quite name. But she kept her focus on Kevin Gober, on the way his entire posture had changed. No longer hunched in isolated frustration, but sitting straighter, engaged, alive in a way that made him look 10 years younger. "Most people just nod and smile when they realize I'm deaf," Kevin signed, his movements slower now, more intimate, as if sharing a confidence. "Or they shout, as if volume could cross the gap. Your signing is beautiful, natural. Where did you learn?" And there it was, the question that could destroy everything. Naomi's hands froze mid-response, her mind racing. She'd been so careful for 8 months, careful to be invisible, careful to reveal nothing, careful to bury the truth so deep that not even she had to look at it most days. "Where did you learn?" "From my father, Elliot Frost, the man your son had executed in an alley 3 years ago." Naomi started to sign, then caught herself, her hands dropping to her sides as panic clawed up her throat. "I picked it up from a family friend when I was young." "It's not important." Her voice came out wrong, too tight, too defensive, too obviously hiding something. "Not important?" Robert's voice cut through her rising panic like ice water. He'd moved closer without her noticing, and now he stood less than 3 feet away, his dark eyes boring into her with an intensity that felt almost physical. Up close, she could see the tattoos more clearly, intricate patterns that marked him as something more than just a businessman in expensive suits. There was violence in those marks, history written in ink and regret. "You speak American Sign Language fluently. Perfect syntax, natural flow, emotional nuance." His voice dropped lower, more dangerous, each word deliberate. "That's not something you pick up from a family friend. That takes years. Immersion, family." He stepped closer, invading her space. "So I'll ask again, where did you really learn to sign, Miss Frost?" The question felt like an accusation wrapped in a challenge, a trap disguised as curiosity. Naomi could feel Mrs. Holloway's horrified stare, could sense the other staff members exchanging glances, could practically hear them calculating whether to intervene or flee. Her hands were shaking visibly now. She clasped them behind her back, cursing the way her body betrayed her fear. "I should get back to work," she said quietly, taking a step backward toward safety, toward invisibility. "The wine needs—" "Wait!" Robert's hand shot out, catching her wrist. Not roughly, his grip was controlled, almost gentle, but firm enough to stop her retreat completely. The contact sent an unexpected shock through her system, warm and electric, and entirely wrong for someone whose family had destroyed hers. She saw something flicker in his eyes. Surprise, maybe, that he'd felt it too. That inexplicable pull between two people who should be enemies. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Kevin's hands moved in her peripheral vision, signing something with deliberate emphasis. "Robert, let her, Beers." Robert's gaze snapped to his father, and some wordless communication passed between them. Years of unspoken tension, of distance created by silence, of a son who'd stopped listening when his father stopped speaking. When he looked back at Naomi, his expression had shifted. Still suspicious, but now layered with something else. Curiosity. And beneath that, buried so deep she almost missed it, guilt. "I apologize," he said, and the words seemed to cost him something. As if apologies were currency he rarely spent. That was unnecessarily harsh. His grip on her wrist loosened but didn't release, his thumb unconsciously tracing the delicate bones there. "My father hasn't had a real conversation in years. What you just gave him—" He paused, as if the sentiment was unfamiliar, uncomfortable in his mouth. "It matters, more than you know." Naomi's first instinct was to pull away, to retreat into the safety of invisibility, to disappear back into the shadows where she'd lived for 8 months. But something in Robert Roth's expression stopped her. It wasn't just suspicion anymore. It was something far more dangerous. Recognition. As if he was looking at her and seeing not just a maid but a puzzle he needed to solve. A threat he needed to assess. A person he couldn't quite dismiss or categorize or control. Kevin's hands moved again, signing with a knowing smile that suggested he saw far more than anyone gave him credit for. "I think I'm going to insist you help me from now on, dear. What's your name?" Naomi hesitated, feeling the weight of the moment. Once she gave her name, there would be no going back to invisibility. No more hiding in plain sight. No more carefully constructed walls between her past and her present. "Naomi," she signed, meeting Kevin's warm gaze while feeling Robert's intense stare burning into her profile. "Naomi Frost." Kevin's smile deepened with genuine pleasure, but Robert's expression darkened like storm clouds gathering on a summer horizon. "Frost," he repeated slowly, as if tasting the name for hidden meanings, rolling it around in his mouth like wine that might be poisoned. Frost. And Naomi realized with sinking certainty that her carefully hidden life had just ended, shattered by a single act of kindness, and the man staring at her might be the one person in the world who could connect her name to the ghosts she'd been running from. The afternoon light seemed to dim, or perhaps it was just her vision tunneling as the weight of what she'd done crashed over her. 8 months of invisibility, destroyed in a 5-minute conversation. 8 months of safety, obliterated by the instinct to help someone who reminded her too much of her father. She'd come to this mansion seeking truth, seeking justice, seeking answers she hadn't expected to be seen. That evening, as Naomi returned to her small room in the staff quarters, a converted storage space with a narrow bed and a window that overlooked the service entrance, she couldn't shake the feeling of Robert Roth's eyes on her, or the way Kevin Gober's smile had reminded her, just for a moment, of her father's before everything had gone dark. 8 months of careful invisibility, shattered in a single conversation. And the worst part? She'd stepped forward willingly, had chosen to reveal herself rather than watch another person suffer in isolation. Outside her door, she found a note slipped under the threshold. Plain cardstock, expensive. Only 3 words in elegant script. 7 a.m., Father's Quarters, R. Roth. It wasn't a request. It was a summons. Naomi pressed her back against the closed door, the note trembling in her hands. Tomorrow, she would have to walk back into that room, would have to face Robert Roth's suspicion and Kevin Gober's hope, would have to decide how much truth to tell, how many lies to maintain, and whether justice was worth the risk of exposure. She'd come to the Roth mansion with a plan: stay invisible, gather evidence, clear her father's name, and disappear before anyone noticed. But plans, she was learning, rarely survived contact with the enemy. Especially when the enemy's father smiled at you like you were the answer to years of prayers. And the enemy himself looked at you like you were either salvation or destruction, and he couldn't quite decide which. The note crumpled slightly in her grip. 7 a.m. 12 hours until her carefully constructed cover began to unravel completely. 12 hours until she faced the family that had destroyed hers. And the terrifying part? A small, traitorous part of her was already looking forward to seeing Kevin's face light up again when she walked through that door. Focus, she told herself. smoothing out the note and placing it on her small desk beside the photograph she kept hidden. Her father, young and smiling, his hands frozen mid-sign in a gesture she'd spent 3 years trying to forget. Tomorrow, the real game would begin. Tonight, she allowed herself one moment of weakness. She signed to her father's photograph, hands moving through the familiar shapes they'd shared when she was a child. "I found him, Dad, Kevin Gober, and he doesn't think you were a traitor." The photograph didn't respond, but somehow signing the words made them feel more real, made her mission feel more possible, made the risk of tomorrow feel almost worth it. The grandfather clock in the hallway chimed 6:45 as Naomi approached Kevin's private suite, her heart hammering against her ribs. She'd barely slept, the crumpled note on her nightstand a constant reminder that her carefully constructed invisibility had shattered. Now, she was walking directly into the lion's den, or perhaps, more accurately, into the lair of the man whose son had destroyed her family. The heavy oak door stood slightly ajar. She knocked softly, heard Kevin's voice call something indistinct, and pushed it open. The suite surprised her immediately. Where the rest of the mansion felt cold and imposing, all marble surfaces and dark wood that absorbed warmth, Kevin's rooms breathed with life. Books lined built-in shelves, their spines worn from actual reading rather than decorative purposes. Photographs covered nearly every surface. A young Robert with gap-toothed smile. Kevin and a beautiful woman who must have been his late wife. Candid moments that spoke of a life lived before violence had claimed so much. Kevin sat in a leather armchair by the window, morning light illuminating the sketch pad in his lap. He was dressed casually in khaki pants and a cream sweater, looking more like a retired professor than a former mafia king. When he saw her, his face lit up with genuine pleasure. Robert stood across the room, coffee cup in hand, watching her entrance with that same unreadable expression from yesterday. He'd exchanged his burgundy suit for dark slacks and a fitted black shirt. Sleeves rolled to his forearms, revealing more of those intricate tattoos. Even casual, he radiated controlled danger. "Good morning," Naomi signed to Kevin, trying to ignore how Robert's eyes tracked every movement of her hands. Kevin set aside his sketchpad eagerly, his hands moving with more confidence than yesterday. "I'm so glad you came."
"I was worried my son might have frightened you away."
"I don't frighten easily, sir," Naomi signed back, and saw the corner of Kevin's mouth quirk upward. Kevin's expression grew serious as his hands formed deliberate shapes. "I want you to be my companion, not a nurse, not a servant, a friend who understands my language." Robert's voice cut through the silence, translating for himself more than for them. "My father insists. He won't hear otherwise." A pause waited with irony at his own word choice. "You'll spend mornings with him, reading, conversation, whatever he needs." Naomi's mind raced. This was dangerous proximity to a family connected to her father's death. Every instinct screamed to refuse, to maintain distance, to protect herself. But refusing might draw more suspicion. And more than that, being close to Kevin meant access to information, to the truth she'd come here seeking. "Only mornings," she said aloud, meeting Robert's gaze. "I have other duties." "Your other duties are reassigned." Robert's tone brooked no argument. "You work for my father now." The declaration hung between them like a challenge. Naomi wanted to protest, but Kevin's hopeful expression stopped her. She nodded once, sharply, and Robert left without another word, though she felt his reluctance in the way he paused at the door, as if reconsidering leaving her alone with his father. Once the door clicked shut, the tension eased slightly. Kevin gestured to the chair across from him, and Naomi sat, her hands already forming questions she both needed and dreaded to ask. "Tell me about yourself," Kevin signed. "Your family. Your life before here." The questions felt like landmines. "Parents deceased," Naomi signed carefully, each gesture precisely controlled to hide her trembling. "Raised myself mostly. I prefer quiet work." Kevin's eyes held understanding that went deeper than sympathy. "I lost my hearing 12 years ago. An ambush. An explosion meant to kill me." His hands moved slowly, as if the memory still hurt. "It trapped me in silence instead. Sometimes I think death would have been kinder." "Don't say that," Naomi signed instinctively. "My son thinks I can't lead anymore." "Maybe he's right." Kevin's expression grew distant. "But some days, I just want someone to talk to who doesn't see me as broken, who doesn't speak slower or louder, as if volume could cross the gap." Naomi's empathy warred with her caution. This man had been part of the world that destroyed her father. Yet sitting here, seeing his isolation, his desperate need for connection, she understood it too well. During a pause, her gaze drifted to Kevin's desk. A framed photograph caught her eye. Younger Kevin with another man, both in their 30s. Arms around each other's shoulders, genuine smiles that spoke of brotherhood. Her blood turned to ice. She knew that smile, had inherited that smile. It was her father. "That was Elliot," Kevin signed, noticing her stare. "My best friend, my brother in everything but blood." Naomi's hands trembled as they formed the question. "What happened to him?" Kevin's expression darkened like storm clouds. "He was accused of betrayal, killed on my son's orders." His signs grew sharper, angry. "I've never forgiven Robert for it. Because I never believed Elliot was guilty." The room tilted. Naomi barely held herself together, her hands shaking as she signed, "I need a moment." "Did I upset you?" Kevin's concern was genuine, fatherly. "No, just sad stories." She stood abruptly. "I'll be right back." The hallway air hit her like a physical blow. She leaned against the wall, trying to breathe, trying to process. Kevin didn't believe her father was guilty. Had never believed it. Which meant, "You looked like you'd seen a ghost." Robert's quiet voice made her jump. He leaned against the opposite wall, as if he'd been listening the entire time. "Your father was telling me about someone he lost," Naomi managed, defensive. "It's emotional." "Elliot Frost." Robert's eyes narrowed, studying her reaction too carefully. "He talks about him sometimes." "Did he tell you how Elliot betrayed us? Sold out our roots to the Calabrese family?" "He said he didn't believe Elliot was guilty," Naomi replied, barely containing the rage building in her chest. Robert's jaw tightened, a muscle jumping beneath his beard. "My father sees the world through sentiment. I see it through evidence. Elliot was guilty. The proof was irrefutable." Was it? The words escaped before she could stop them. "Or did someone want you to believe it was?" Robert stepped closer, dangerously close. "You're very invested in a dead traitor's honor for someone who just started working here." Naomi met his gaze, refusing to back down. "I'm invested in truth. Maybe you should be, too." "Careful, Miss Frost." His voice dropped to something lethal. "Questioning my judgment is a dangerous game." "Then maybe you should stop playing with people's lives." She walked away before he could respond, before the tears threatening to fall could betray her completely, leaving Robert staring after her with an expression she couldn't read and didn't want to understand. That night, alone in the mansion's library under the guise of finding books for Kevin, Naomi discovered newspaper clippings about her father's death. Gang-related shooting, the headlines read. Euphemism for execution. And in every article, one name appeared repeatedly. Victor Hale, Robert's consigliere, who'd provided the evidence of Elliot's betrayal. Naomi's hands clenched around the brittle newsprint. The man who killed her father might still be in this house. Her mission crystallized with diamond-sharp clarity: expose the truth, clear her father's name, and make the Roth family face what they'd done, even if it destroyed her in the process. 2 weeks dissolved into routine. Mornings with Kevin became the rhythm by which Naomi measured her days. They talked about everything: his childhood in Brooklyn, his late wife Maria, the old neighborhood codes that governed a world most people never saw. Kevin taught her about the Mafia's history with surprising candor, as if finally having someone who could understand him had unlocked decades of stored stories. We had our own language, Kevin signed one morning, sunlight streaming through the windows of his suite. Not just words, gestures that meant life or death. He demonstrated casually, a closed fist pressed to his chest, then opened toward his heart, a blooming flower of loyalty. Naomi's breath caught. She knew that gesture, had seen her father use it countless times when she was small, though she'd never understood its meaning. It was muscle memory, instinct, that made her hands mirror the movement, completing the sequence without thought. Kevin's eyes widened with pleased surprise. The door opened at precisely that moment. Robert stood frozen in the doorway, his expression transforming from casual observation to stone-cold fury. "Where did you learn that?" Naomi's hands dropped to her sides, panic flooding her system. "Learn what?" "That sign." Robert's voice was dangerously calm as he stepped into the room, closing the door behind him with deliberate care. "It's not in any ASL dictionary. It's a family code, known only to sworn members of our organization." Kevin signed in confusion. "Robert, what's wrong?" Robert ignored his father completely, his focus laser-sharp on Naomi. "I'll ask one more time. Where did you learn that sign?" Her mind raced, searching for an explanation that wouldn't expose everything. "A man who used to visit our house when I was a child," she said, forcing her voice steady. "He and my father were friends. He taught my father some signs to help communicate with me. I didn't know they were secret." "This man's name?" "I don't remember. I was 7. Robert studied her with the intensity of a predator assessing prey. "Your father's name. What was it?" Naomi's heart slammed against her ribs. "Does it matter? Humor me." She met his gaze, refusing to look away. "James. James Frost." It was a lie. Her father's middle name, the one detail that might buy her time. Robert's eyes narrowed, but he couldn't immediately disprove it. Without another word, he turned and left, his departure somehow more threatening than his presence. Kevin's hands moved the moment they were alone. "You're in trouble, aren't you?" "I don't know what you mean. I've lived in this world for 50 years. I know when someone is hiding, and I know when someone is afraid." He paused, his expression infinitely gentle. "You don't have to tell me, but if you need help, I'll listen." Tears threatened to fall. "Your son thinks I'm a threat." "My son thinks everyone is a threat. It's how he's survived." Kevin's smile was sad, understanding. "But I don't think you are. I think you're just trying to survive too." That afternoon, in the garden where Kevin liked to take his walks, a man approached with the smooth confidence of a shark circling prey. Late 40s, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit, with a smile that never reached his calculating eyes. "Mr. Gober," he said loudly to Kevin, who couldn't hear him, before turning his attention to Naomi. "You must be the miracle worker. Robert tells me you've brought his father back to life." "I just helped Mr. Kevin communicate," Naomi replied, unease crawling up her spine. "Fascinating skill. Tell me, how does a maid come to know sign language so well?" Before she could answer, Kevin's hands moved sharply. "That man is a snake. Be careful." Victor Hale's smile never wavered, but something predatory flickered in his eyes. Naomi excused herself quickly, feeling his gaze follow her retreat like a physical touch. That night, restless and desperate, Naomi found herself outside Robert's study. The door was unlocked, suspiciously so, but she couldn't resist. Inside, filing cabinets held the family's secrets. She searched methodically until she found it. A folder marked Frost E. Betrayal evidence. Her hands shook as she opened it. Photos of her father meeting with men she didn't recognize. Bank records showing unexplained payments. And testimony. All of it from Victor Hale. But the details were wrong. Dates didn't align. Photos were too grainy to be definitive. The evidence that had condemned her father was built on sand. She photographed everything with trembling fingers. "Looking for something specific, Miss Frost?" The lights blazed on. Robert stood in the doorway, arms crossed, expression unreadable. "I got lost looking for—" "Don't insult me with lies." His voice was deadly quiet. "You've been in here for 20 minutes. I've been watching from the hallway for 10. He'd let her search, wanted to see what she'd look for. "My father likes you," Robert continued, moving into the room with predatory grace. "That's the only reason you're not already in a very dark room having a very different conversation. So I'll give you one chance to tell me the truth. Who are you really, and what do you want from my family?" Naomi made a split-second decision. Go on offense. "I want to know why you killed an innocent man." Robert stopped mid-step. "Excuse me?" "Elliot Frost, you said you had irrefutable evidence, but I just looked at it and it's full of holes. The dates don't match. The photos could be doctored. And every piece of evidence comes from the same source, Victor Hale. You're accusing my consigliere of framing someone?" His voice dropped to something lethal. "I'm saying maybe you should look closer at the man you trust." Robert moved closer, towering over her. "And why would you care about a dead traitor unless—" Recognition dawned in his eyes, terrible and complete. "Unless he wasn't just anyone to you." He grabbed her phone, scrolling through the photos she'd taken. His expression shifted, anger to confusion to horrified realization. Frost. Elliot Frost. He looked at her with new understanding. "How old are you?" 23. Elliot was executed 3 years ago. He had a daughter." His voice dropped to barely a whisper. "She disappeared after his death, went into hiding. Her name was Naomi." Her voice broke on her own name. "Naomi Frost. And you murdered my father." The words hung between them like a death sentence. Robert's face drained of color, but his voice remained steady, terrifyingly steady. "If Elliot Frost was your father, then you need to leave this house right now. Before I do something we'll both regret. I'm not going anywhere until I prove he was innocent." "Then you're a fool!" Robert's expression was unreadable, dangerous. and you won't survive the week." Naomi stood outside Kevin's suite at precisely 7 a.m., her hand raised to knock. The door opened before her knuckles could connect. Robert stood there, shadows under his eyes dark as bruises, his shirt rumpled. He looked like he hadn't slept at all. "I told you to leave," he said, voice rough with exhaustion. "I don't take orders from murderers." Kevin's hands moved sharply from across the room, demanding attention. "What's happening? Why are you both standing there like enemies?" Robert's jaw clenched, but he signed as he spoke, each gesture deliberate. "She's Elliot's daughter." The words landed like a grenade. Kevin's face transformed, shock giving way to something fierce and protective. He crossed the room quickly for a man his age, his hands moving with furious emphasis. "If she's Elliot's daughter, then we owe her everything. Elliot died because of us." "He died because he betrayed us," Robert replied, but his voice lacked conviction. "No," Kevin's signs were sharp, cutting. "He died because someone wanted us to think he did. I've always known it, and you were too blind to see." For the first time in years, father and son truly faced each other. Naomi found herself interpreting a conversation that had been needed for far too long, her hands moving between them as years of silence finally broke. "Why didn't you tell me?" Robert demanded as Kevin produced a worn box from his closet. Newspaper clippings, handwritten notes, circled inconsistencies. "I tried. You stopped listening to me the day I lost my hearing." Kevin's signs were brutal in their honesty. "You think silence makes me useless?" The accusation hit Robert like a physical blow. Naomi's voice trembled as she shared her own truth. The night men in suits came, her father's desperate shouts, "I never betrayed Kevin. You're being played." The gunshots that still echoed in her nightmares, how she'd survived, hidden, come here deliberately seeking answers. "You've been planning this for 8 months, Robert said, something like respect darkening his expression. "I've been surviving for 3 years. There's a difference." They spread the evidence across Kevin's desk, the photos, the bank records, Victor Hale's testimony. With fresh eyes, the inconsistencies became glaring. Every damning piece traced back to the same source. "Victor joined our family 6 months before Elliot died," Kevin signed. "I never trusted him." "He saved my life during the Castellano ambush," Robert countered. "Or did he orchestrate it so he could save you and gain your trust?" The question hung heavy. Robert pulled 3 years of records, and a pattern emerged. Decisions influenced by Victor's intelligence, Otosaur's, Atinton, each one weakening the Roth position while strengthening their rivals. The Calabrese family had grown powerful on information that supposedly came from Elliot's betrayal. "He's been playing me for 3 years," Robert said quietly, the realization devastating. Naomi's control finally broke. "My father is dead because you trusted the wrong man. My mother drank herself to death within a year. My little sister has nightmares about men in suits. And you just, what? Say, oops, my mistake?" "No," Robert met her fury with quiet intensity. "I say I'm going to fix it." "You can't fix this. You can't bring him back." "No, but I can give you justice." Kevin suggested using Naomi as bait. Victor didn't know her real identity yet. If she could get close to him. "No, absolutely not," Naomi and Robert said simultaneously, then looked at each other in surprise. "It's her choice," Kevin signed firmly, "and she deserves to be the one who brings him down." Naomi hesitated, then, "What would I have to do?" As if summoned by their plotting, Victor requested a meeting that afternoon. "The new girl," he mentioned casually to Robert. There's something familiar about her. Has she been background checked? Standard vetting. Nothing unusual. Her signing. It reminds me of someone. I can't place it. The timeline accelerated. They needed to move before Victor's suspicion crystallized into certainty. That evening, Robert appeared at Naomi's quarters, shocking the staff with his inappropriate visit. He handed her a small device, an audio transmitter, barely larger than a button. If you're going to do this, you wear this. I hear everything. And if he so much as looks at you wrong, I'm coming in. Why do you suddenly care what happens to me? Robert's expression was raw, unguarded. Because your father was innocent, and I killed him anyway. I can't undo that. But I can make damn sure his daughter doesn't end up the same way. You really didn't know, did you? Naomi's voice broke. That he was innocent. No, but ignorance isn't innocence. I pulled the trigger. That's on me. For a moment, they stood in shared grief. Two people bound by violence, separated by guilt, connected by a ghost. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. About your father. About all of it. Sorry doesn't bring him back. No, Robert's smile was bitter, dangerous. But revenge might help. The wine cellar's temperature dropped 10 degrees below the rest of the mansion, but Naomi's nervousness had nothing to do with the cold. She clutched 3 books on mafia history, Robert's careful selections, and descended the stone steps. As if lost, Victor Hale stood examining a bottle of Bordeaux, his back to her, too perfectly positioned, too conveniently alone. Miss Frost, he turned with that shark smile. We keep running into each other. Sorry, I was just... Mr. Kevin wanted these books. She shifted her grip deliberately, letting one volume slip. It hit the floor with a thud that echoed off stone walls. Victor retrieved it, his sharp eyes scanning the title. Blood Oaths. The History of Mafia Loyalty Codes. Interesting reading material for a maid. It's for Mr. Kevin. He likes to reminisce about the old days, before his accident. What stories does he tell you? Victor's tone stayed casual, but his posture shifted. Predator scenting prey. About his friends, his brothers. Naomi kept her voice soft, uncertain. He talks about someone named Elliot a lot. There, a micro-expression, tension flickering across Victor's face before his mask reasserted itself. Elliot was a traitor. I'm surprised Kevin speaks fondly of him. Mr. Kevin doesn't think he was a traitor. He says the evidence was wrong somehow. Victor's pleasant mask slipped for just a second. Kevin is sentimental. Age and isolation have made him paranoid. Maybe, but he keeps records, notes. He showed me some inconsistencies in... What kind of records? The interruption was sharp, urgent. Naomi realized her mistake immediately. She'd pushed too hard. Victor stepped closer, blocking her path to the stairs. You're very interested in ancient history for someone who just wants to help an old man communicate. I'm just curious. Curiosity in this family is dangerous. His voice dropped, threatening now, especially about things that should stay buried. Naomi backed toward the door, but Victor moved with her, maintaining proximity. Wait, there's something about you. The way you sign, the way you look when we talk about Elliot. His eyes narrowed with dawning recognition. Have we met before? Robert's voice crackled in her hidden earpiece. Get out, now. Victor's phone rang, sharp, insistent. He glanced at it with visible frustration, finally stepping aside to answer. Naomi didn't wait. She slipped past him, taking the stairs 2 at a time, his voice following her. Yes, I'm aware there's been questions asked. I'll handle it. She burst into Robert's study, trembling with adrenaline. Robert looked up from his desk, fury darkening his expression. You pushed too hard. He knows something is wrong. But now we know he's worried, Naomi countered, breathless. He said he'd handle it. That means he's planning something. Kevin, watching via video feed, signed. He's going to run or eliminate the threat. Which means he'll come after you, Father. Or Naomi, or both, Robert said, his protective instinct clear. Good. Let him try. Naomi's voice was steel. This isn't a game. No, it's my life. And my father's memory. And I'm not backing down. Robert's tech specialist burst in, laptop in hand. Sir, you need to see this. The evidence was damning. A Cayman Islands account. Regular deposits from Calabrese shell companies dating back 4 years. 6 months before Elliot's death. And security footage from the Castellano ambush, finally recovered, showing Victor making a phone call minutes before the attack. He'd known it was coming. He set up the ambush, saved me from the trap he created, all to earn my trust. Robert's voice was ice over fury. Kevin signed, and once he had your trust, he used it to eliminate anyone who might expose him, starting with Elliot. Why my father specifically? Naomi asked. Robert's jaw clenched. Elliot managed our weapons distribution. He would have noticed discrepancies, shipments going missing, routes being compromised. He was getting too close to the truth. So Victor framed him, had him killed, and took over his position. Kevin signed with bitter understanding. Perfect crime. Alarms blared. Robert's head of security appeared, face grim. Sir, there's been a breach. Someone accessed the secure files about the Frost case. 10 minutes ago, from Mr. Hale's personal computer. Victor knew they were investigating him. Robert mobilized immediately. Victor's office stood empty, computer wiped, safe opened. Security footage showed him leaving through the East Wing 20 minutes prior, heading toward the private airfield. Lock down the airfield. No one gets in or out, Robert commanded his team. To Naomi, you stay here with my father. I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. He killed my father. I deserve to face him. Kevin's hands moved forcefully. Let her come. She's earned this. And Robert, don't you dare kill him before we get answers. Robert's resistance crumbled. Fine, but Naomi stays in the car. We'll see about that. The convoy of black SUVs raced through Manhattan streets. Naomi beside Robert, in tense silence. If something happens, if this goes wrong, you run. You don't look back, Robert said quietly. I've been running for 3 years. I'm done. Your father would want you safe. My father would want the truth. So do I. They arrived at the airfield to find Victor's private plane on the runway, engines running. Victor stood near the aircraft, impossibly calm, watching them approach. He was smiling. Robert emerged from the vehicle with controlled precision, his security team fanning out in tactical formation. Naomi followed despite his warning glare, her feet carrying her forward on instinct and fury. Victor stood near the plane, impossibly calm, almost amused. Robert, I wondered how long it would take you. It's over, Victor. I know everything. The embezzlement, the Calabrese deal, the ambush, Elliot. Elliot, yes, let's talk about Elliot. Victor's voice carried across the tarmac like a confession eager to be heard. The man who was too smart for his own good. He noticed the discrepancies within weeks. started asking questions. I couldn't have that. Robert's gun appeared in his hand, steady despite the rage Naomi could see trembling beneath his control. So you framed him. I made it look so convincing, even you believed it. Photos, bank records, witness testimony, all fabricated. You were so eager to find a traitor, you never questioned whether the evidence was real. Each word landed like a physical blow. Naomi moved past Robert, placing herself directly in Victor's line of sight. His eyes widened with genuine recognition. Wait, you're Elliot Frost's daughter, the one you tried to erase along with him. Victor's surprise melted into something almost appreciative. The little girl. You were, what, 7, 8, hiding in the closet when we came? I heard everything. Her voice shook with 3 years of suppressed rage. My father begging you to listen. Telling you he was loyal, and you shot him anyway. I didn't pull the trigger. That honor went to... His eyes flicked deliberately to Robert. The truth crashed over Naomi like ice water. She turned to Robert, horror and realization dawning in equal measure. You were there. Robert's face drained of color, but he held her gaze. I executed the sentence. That's my role as head of the family. You looked my father in the eyes and killed him. I thought he was guilty. I thought I was protecting my family. Don't. Naomi backed away, her world tilting. Don't you dare make excuses. Touching, isn't it? Victor's voice dripped with poisonous amusement. You two have gotten so close. Does she know you held the gun to her father's head, Robert? Does she know he said her name before he died? Naomi lunged at Victor, grief and rage obliterating caution. Robert caught her, his arms iron bands holding her back as she struggled. Let me go, she screamed. Let me. Victor laughed. Such fire, just like Elliot. He fought too in the end. Robert's grip tightened, protective, despite everything between them. Victor began backing toward the plane. This has been illuminating, but I have a flight to catch. You're not leaving. You're going to shoot me in front of all these witnesses? Your security team? Your father's innocent companion? That's not your style, Robert. You're right. It's not. Kevin's voice boomed through speakers Robert had positioned earlier. But it is mine. A second vehicle arrived. Kevin emerged with aid from a guard, holding a tablet. He signed rapidly, Naomi translating automatically, even through her shock. I may be deaf, but I'm not helpless. Every conversation in my suite is recorded for my protection, including the one 3 years ago where Victor came to me asking if I suspected Elliot of anything unusual. Victor's confident mask fractured. Kevin played audio, Victor's voice planning the frame-up, discussing fabricated evidence, predicting Robert's paranoia. He sees betrayal everywhere. We'll just give him what he expects to find. Victor pulled a gun. None of that matters. I'll be in international airspace in 10 minutes. There are 8 guns pointed at you right now, Robert said quietly, but I only need to shoot one person. Victor aimed at Naomi, the girl, Elliot's legacy. It would be poetic, wouldn't it? Robert stepped in front of Naomi instantly, his body a shield. You'll have to go through me first. Gladly. The sniper's shot came before Victor could fire. He fell, wounded but alive, his gun clattering across concrete. Robert's team secured him immediately. Robert turned to Naomi, whose face had gone pale. Are you hurt? You stepped in front of me. Her voice sounded distant, shocked. Yes. You could have died. Yes. Medics rushed to Victor. Kevin approached Naomi, signing, Your father was innocent, The whole world will know now. Tears finally fell. Thank you for believing in him, for keeping evidence. He was my brother. I never stopped believing. Kevin embraced her, and Naomi broke down completely, 3 years of grief finally finding release. Later, as Victor was taken away, Robert stood alone by the airfield fence. Naomi approached, exhaustion replacing anger. I killed your father. That doesn't change, no matter what Victor did, Robert said without looking at her. No, it doesn't. I understand if you want me prosecuted. I'll turn myself in. I'll… Stop. Long silence stretched between them. You were lied to, manipulated. That doesn't absolve you, but… My father wouldn't want his death to claim more lives, Robert's voice broke. I don't deserve your forgiveness. Probably not. But I'm tired of hating. I'm tired of running. I'm just… tired. What do you need? I need my father's name cleared publicly. I need everyone to know he was loyal. And I need… She paused. I need time to figure out what comes next. You'll have it, all of it. As they drove back, Kevin signed to Naomi. You're stronger than you know. I don't feel strong. Strength isn't about not breaking. It's about healing after you do. Naomi looked at Robert, guilt etched in every line of his face. She didn't forgive him, not yet. But for the first time she saw him as something other than her father's killer. She saw him as someone broken, trying to make amends. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to start with. 3 weeks transformed everything. Press conferences exposed Victor's betrayal, cleared Elliot Frost's name, and sent shockwaves through New York's underworld. Victor faced multiple charges: murder, conspiracy, embezzlement. The Calabrese family connections unraveled under federal investigation. Naomi hadn't left the mansion. She told herself it was about Kevin, about the foundation they were building in her father's name. But some part of her knew the truth was more complicated. Kevin had become the father figure she'd lost, filling voids she hadn't realized still existed. They spent mornings planning the Elliot Frost Foundation, programs for families escaping organized crime, counseling services, education scholarships. Your father died because of this world, Kevin signed one afternoon. Let's use his name to save others from it. That's beautiful. Will you help me build it? I can provide the money, the connections. But I need your heart, your understanding. Naomi agreed, finding purpose in the wreckage of grief. Robert kept his distance, guilt a wall between them. He was dismantling the Roth Empire's violent foundations, moving toward legitimacy, real estate, legal investments. His associates resisted, but he remained unbending. The old ways got Elliot killed. They got Victor in. They end now. He worked late into every night, barely sleeping, as if exhaustion could absolve him. Late one evening, Naomi found him in his study surrounded by papers. His hands moved in hesitant patterns, signing to himself, she realized, practicing. She knocked. He looked up, startled. Naomi, did you need something? Your father's asleep. I saw your light on. Awkward silence stretched between them. Naomi noticed what he was practicing. I'm sorry. Over and over. The same signs, never quite fluid enough. You're learning to sign that? She asked quietly. Robert's expression held unexpected vulnerability. I wanted to be able to say it properly. To my father. To you. Words don't feel like enough. Naomi sat across from him. Your father says you haven't eaten in 2 days. I'm not hungry. That's not how it works. You can't punish yourself into redemption. Robert's laugh was bitter. Can't I? My father wouldn't want this, you destroying yourself over his death. Robert looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in weeks. How can you say that? How can you sit here with me after what I did? Because hating you won't bring him back. And because you're not the enemy I thought you were. Robert's voice broke. I see his face every night. Your father's. The moment before He couldn't finish. What did he say? Victor mentioned, he said my name. Robert's voice dropped to barely audible. He said, tell Naomi her father loved her. Tell her to be strong. He thought about you in his last moments. Not himself, not revenge, just you. Naomi's tears fell freely. You never told me that. I didn't know you existed. I didn't ask Victor if Elliot had family. I just did my duty and tried to forget. But you couldn't forget. No, he haunted me. I didn't know why. I'd executed traitors before. But something about him, I knew, deep down, something was wrong. And I did it anyway. You were trying to protect your family. Victor manipulated that. That's an excuse, not a justification. No, it's context, and it matters. Naomi reached across the desk, placing her hand on his. Robert stared at the contact, shocked by the warmth of it. I'm not saying I forgive you. I'm not there yet, but I'm saying I understand, and maybe that's a start. Robert's eyes reddened. I don't deserve your understanding. Probably not, but I'm giving it anyway. Kevin watched from the doorway, neither of them noticing him. He signed to himself, smiling. Finally, they're both starting to heal. He left them alone, giving them space. Robert showed Naomi his plans, legitimizing the business, funding the foundation with clean money. Programs for orphans, scholarship funds, counseling services. This is extensive. It'll cost millions. I have millions. Blood money. Let me turn it into something good. You can't buy redemption. I know. But maybe I can earn it. One life at a time. As they worked into the night, the tension shifted. No longer adversarial, but not quite comfortable. Something new emerging. Understanding, respect, possibility. Robert made coffee. Naomi caught herself smiling at something he said. She realized she didn't hate him anymore. The realization terrified and liberated her simultaneously. As dawn broke, Robert walked her to her quarters. At her door, he paused. Thank you. For tonight. For not hating me. I did hate you. For 3 years. It was exhausting. And now? Now I don't know what I feel. But it's not hate. Robert signed, awkwardly but sincerely. I'm sorry. For everything. Naomi signed back. I know. And someday, that might be enough. She entered her room, leaving Robert standing in the hallway. He touched the wall where she'd just stood, something shifting in his chest. Kevin, watching from his suite's doorway, signed to himself. Elliot, your daughter is remarkable. She's doing what neither of us could, breaking the cycle, making something beautiful from all this pain. The morning sun rose over Manhattan. In different rooms, 3 people who'd lost everything began to build something new. The foundation of forgiveness, built not on forgetting, but on choosing to move forward. 6 months later, the Elliott Frost Foundation opened its doors in a renovated Brooklyn building. Press cameras flashed, families lined up for services, and Naomi stood at the podium as director, Kevin beside her as chairman. Robert watching from the shadows as silent financial backer. My father died believing no one would remember him as anything but a traitor, Naomi said, her voice steady despite the tears threatening to fall. Kevin signed beside her for deaf attendees. Today, we remember him as a hero, as a man who stood for truth, even when it cost him everything. The audience, families touched by organized crime, people seeking escape from violence, rose in standing ovation. Robert watched from the back row, too guilty to sit in front. Naomi found him afterward. You should have been on stage. This is your redemption too. This isn't about me. Yes, it is. It's about all of us, the ones left behind, figuring out how to live with what happened. During the reception, Kevin pulled Naomi aside. I have something for you, something of your father's. He produced a small box containing a watch, a photograph, and a letter. Elliot left these with me for safekeeping years ago. He said, if anything ever happens to me, make sure Naomi knows I loved her. Naomi's hands shook as she opened the letter, her father's handwriting, messy, familiar, achingly real. My dearest Naomi, if you're reading this, then I'm gone. And you're probably angry, confused, maybe broken. I need you to know, whatever they say I did, I was loyal. But more than any of that, I was loyal to you. Don't let my death define you. Don't let anger consume you. Find the good in this world, in kindness, in forgiveness, in choosing to build instead of destroy. I love you, always. Be strong, be brave, and be better than the world that raised you. Your father, Elliot. Naomi collapsed, sobbing. Kevin held her, but she reached for Robert. He came to her, shocked, and she clung to him. He told me to forgive. He told me to build, not destroy. He was a better man than I'll ever be. Then become the man he believed in, the man he died protecting. Over the following weeks, Naomi couldn't deny what was growing between them. Robert had changed. Softer, more open, fluent now in sign language. The distance had closed through late-night planning sessions, shared meals, quiet conversations. Kevin noticed. You care about him, he signed. He killed my father. He killed the man he thought was a traitor. Now he's trying to honor the hero your father actually was. Isn't that what matters? I don't know if I can, if I should. The heart doesn't follow rules, child. It follows the truth. Robert revealed his surprise one evening. A memorial garden at the foundation dedicated to victims of crime. Elliot's name featured prominently on a bronze plaque. Elliot Frost, loyal friend, devoted father, innocent victim. May his memory inspire us to seek truth above all else. Naomi turned to him, tears streaming. You did this. It's not enough. It'll never be enough. But it's a start. You've changed. Everything about you. You changed me. You and my father. You showed me there was another way. I should hate you. I know. But I don't. I don't hate you at all. What do you feel? I feel like I've been fighting for so long. I forgot what it's like to just feel, without anger, without grief. Robert reached up, gently wiping her tears. I'd spend every day of my life making amends if I could. I don't want amends. I want to move forward with you. She kissed him, cutting off his protest. For a moment, he froze, then responded, pouring 3 years of guilt and growing love into the embrace. They broke apart to find Kevin standing nearby, smiling. "About time. I was starting to think you'd both be stubborn forever." "You knew?" Naomi asked, embarrassed. "I'm deaf, not blind. I've watched you two dance around each other for months." To Robert, "Your mother would have liked her. She believed in second chances." Robert signed back, emotional. "I don't deserve this, either of them. None of us deserve the love we receive. We just have to be brave enough to accept it." 3 months later, at the Foundation's 6-month anniversary, Robert asked Naomi to step into the memorial garden. Kevin was already there, holding a small box. "I've faced down enemies, survived ambushes, built an empire. None of it scared me like this does." Robert got down on one knee. "Your father told you to be brave. I'm trying to be brave enough to ask for something I don't deserve." He signed as he spoke. "Will you marry me? Will you let me spend my life, honoring your father's memory by loving his daughter?" "Yes. 1,000 times yes." 6 months later, they married in the memorial garden. Kevin officiated, signing the vows. Naomi's sister attended, finally ready to return to New York. The deaf community they'd been serving filled the seats. Robert vowed, "I promise to spend every day earning the gift you've given me, to honor your father's memory, to build a world he'd be proud of." Naomi vowed, "I promise to choose forgiveness over anger, to build instead of destroy, to love you not despite our past, but because of how far we've come together." At the reception, Kevin gave a speech that Naomi translated. "3 years ago, this family lost a brother. Today, we're standing together, not as victim and executioner, but as family, as proof that even the darkest past can lead to a hopeful future. Elliot, wherever you are, your daughter is strong, brave, and has chosen love over hate. I think you'd be proud." 2 years later, the foundation had expanded to 3 cities. Robert had fully legitimized the Roth business. Kevin taught sign language classes twice weekly. Naomi and Robert had a daughter, Ellie, named for her grandfather. She learned sign language before spoken words, chattering in hand gestures with Kevin, who doted shamelessly. One evening in the memorial garden, Ellie toddled to her grandfather's plaque. Kevin signed to her, "This is your grandfather. He was brave, like your mother." Ellie mimicked the sign for brave, her chubby hands clumsy but earnest. "Do you think he'd forgive me?" Robert asked quietly. "Your father," Naomi considered. "I think he'd see what you've built, who you've become, and I think he'd say you've honored his memory better than any apology could." Robert signed, "I love you." Naomi signed back, "I love you too." Kevin signed to himself, "Elliot, your daughter found love where there was only pain. She is exactly as brave as you believed she would be." The sun set over Manhattan, casting golden light across the memorial garden, a place built to remember the dead, but used by the living to heal. In the silence between heartbeats, love spoke its own language, one transcending sound, pain, even death itself. Where are you watching from? Drop your country or city in the comment below. If you love this story of survival, protection, and unexpected love, subscribe to our channel for more dark romance tales. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a new story. Your support helps us create more content like this. Thank you for being part of our community.